a new paradigm for the prevention, detection, and treatment of type 2 diabetes. We introduce a groundbreaking discovery in human metabolism. New science that explains how the nutrient energy you get from food can be stored between meals in a healthy way or in a dangerous way. Will the food you eat strengthen you, or will it damage your organs and compromise your well-being? Let's learn more. This network of factories connected by pipes and conveyor belts represents how your organs communicate with each other through nerve signals and the movement of hormones within the bloodstream. When your stomach digests the food you eat, most of the nutrient energy it produces is absorbed into the bloodstream as glucose, which is a type of sugar. Digestion triggers 3 distinct signals. The first is a feeding signal from the stomach to the brain, which then tells the liver to increase nitric oxide levels. The second is a feeding signal from the stomach to the liver, which responds by increasing glutathione levels. The third signal, coming from the pancreas, is a pulse of insulin that travels directly to your liver through a blood vessel known as the portal vein. When the liver receives all 3 signals, it releases a newly understood hormone into your bloodstream. In the academic literature, this hormone was originally described as hepatic insulin sensitizing substance. We call it hepatalin. This is the groundbreaking discovery in human metabolism that will change the lives of millions of people. Let's look at the larger system of organs in our factory. The conveyor belt representing your bloodstream carries glucose molecules to various tissues in the body. As hepatalin is released from the liver and carried throughout the body, it activates receptors that trigger glucose absorption in muscle, the heart, and the kidneys. In a healthy body, as we see here, hepatalin's effect on muscle, the heart, and kidneys accounts for 2/3 of glucose absorption immediately after a meal. This means that most of the glucose is not being stored as body fat. Nutrient partitioning is optimal, which maintains good health. Here we see a healthy body producing insulin and hepatalin. If any of the 3 signals are reduced or removed, hepatalin production will decrease or completely stop. This slows the absorption of glucose to muscle, the heart, and kidneys, and leaves too much glucose circulating and building up in the bloodstream. As excess glucose levels in the bloodstream increase, the pancreas detects the glucose buildup and releases pulse after pulse of insulin. In response to increasing insulin levels in the bloodstream, fat cells start to absorb more glucose. Glucose levels in the bloodstream are now far too high. In response, the liver steps in to absorb and store much of the excess glucose as chains of glycogen. When the liver has absorbed as much excess glucose as it can, it converts the rest to triglycerides, which are secreted as very low-density lipoprotein into the bloodstream. All remaining nutrient energy from a meal now circulates in the bloodstream as either glucose or triglycerides and will be absorbed primarily by fat cells and stored as unhealthy body fat. This acute process takes place after every meal you eat. If your hepatalin levels are low for days or weeks, early indicators of poor health will rise, including post-meal insulin levels, triglycerides, bad cholesterol, heart dysfunction, and blood pressure. If your hepatalin levels remain low for months, muscle mass decreases, while elevated insulin levels will cause a dangerous buildup of fat in your vital organs and on your body. If hepatalin levels are low for years, the amount of insulin needed to compensate causes a condition known as hyperinsulinemia and what has been called insulin resistance. We call this dangerous trajectory of pathologies the absence of meal-induced insulin sensitization syndrome, or AMISS. It is a more complete expression of what is sometimes called metabolic syndrome, or Syndrome X. Through the lens of AMISS, we see a predictable progression of illness caused by decreasing levels of hepatalin. It begins with changes in insulin levels and triglycerides after eating, followed by an increase in cholesterol, heart dysfunction, a loss of muscle mass, and an increase in body fat, all occurring before elevated fasting glucose, the usual indicator of prediabetes, can even be detected. After this point, pancreatic exhaustion leads to type 2 diabetes, organ failure, amputation, and ultimately death. Scimar Limited, the Canadian research firm that has studied and synthesized hepatalin, believes that this previously unknown hormone is the missing link in understanding the biological mechanisms behind metabolic dysfunction and type 2 diabetes. Like other major medical discoveries that have enhanced human life, the hepatalin discovery is poised to change the world by changing a paradigm in healthcare. Like the discovery of insulin 100 years ago, the science of hepatalin will lead to another 100 years of entirely new medicines. A synthetic version of the hepatalin hormone is currently in development as a long-term therapeutic treatment of type 2 diabetes. Scimar has already commercialized a daily preventative, available without prescription, designed to protect the body's production of the hormone. Scimar has also created a diagnostic blood test to indicate hepatalin deficiency. The test is available through community trials and is expected to be available by prescription in 2023. Of greatest significance, Scimar is conducting a phase 2 clinical trial to test a therapeutic pill that could restore hepatalin production for hundreds of millions of people living with conditions related to AMISS, including obesity, heart disease, prediabetes, and type 2 diabetes. Hepatalin marks the next paradigm change in healthcare. It's a new way to help people say no to type 2 diabetes, recover their well-being, and live longer and healthier lives.